Good morning. I am Anatolian Chalisa, and this is Patriots Must Rise. Um, Yesterday, actually 3 days ago, we celebrated the 22nd anniversary of probably the worst attack on America that history has known. Um, and the sad part about this this attack that happened on 9/11 2021 or 2001 was that this was a test on a Star Wars weapon that had been in development ever since Reagan. People don't seem to understand that. I am not. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Okay. I don't speak out of my ass. I know firsthand that this happens to be the reality. We saw another example of this weapon being utilized. Once again, not on our enemies, but on the American citizens that do not agree and do not, in Hawaii's case, many people do not even want to be a part of the United States. So they murder them. We are in a police state, and we have been for a long time. Donald Trump is looking at assassination because his popularity does not wane. The better the better term for it is his popularity grows every single time the left attacks him because the left is hated so much. Even the people who don't support Donald Trump support the fact that he's untouchable. They murder him and he becomes a martyr. We have not had a free country in America since probably Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But that's neither here nor there. We've always had the First Amendment to hide behind when we're speaking as candidly as I am. But with the way they handled January 6, 2021, whether or not we actually have the First Amendment anymore is also suspect. I am not a firm believer in elections. I honestly believe that the the best way to handle an election is with a bullet. I'm not trying to give the left ideas, but they've already thought of it. They can't put Donald Trump in prison for something that he didn't do because it's already been said that we would just write in his name and he would still end up as president. They can't cheat this time around. Because if they do, we're at war. And they know it. So they have to get him off the ballot. All the other candidates on the GOP are very questionable. You got Mike Pence, who betrayed this country. You got Nikki Haley, who shouldn't be leading anything. You got Devik, I can't even say his last name, that I honestly want to keep an eye on because he could be a runner. But at the same time, I'm not sure that I trust him. We don't have options in America anymore because we don't have a free election system. We force democracy down the throats of other countries. But we don't practice it ourselves. Honestly, if the left actually did vote with the values that they preach, we would have no problems in America. But there's a big difference between a liberal and a leftist. A libertarian wants the smallest government possible. Wants the government to be held accountable for who is elected and how things are run. While the leftist is just a criminal who is more than happy to murder their own children. They have absolutely no moral compass, and for the most part, they are pedophiles. They tend to be the homosexuals that are pushing the agendas on our children. They tend to be the ones that want to legalize pedophilia, so they won't go to prison and end up dead anyway. They're the ones that are always against capital punishment, using the argument that the system is broken, and what about what would happen if you're put in a similar situation? I would never be put in a similar situation because I don't travel in such corrupt circles. Okay? I would never be considered a suspect of a murder because I wouldn't murder somebody. And everybody knows that. However, I will defend myself. And if you come to my front door thinking that you're going to break in, you will get a bullet through your head. That's all there is to it. But there's a big difference between defending yourself and murder. Okay? The Bible never said, thou shalt not kill. That's a very watered down version of the Ten Commandments. And in the Middle Ages, it would have been acceptable. The original translation from Aramaic would have said, thou shalt not commit murder. Of course, it's not going to say, thou shalt not kill. Because even a vegetarian kills to eat. Okay? Because we have to consume life in order to keep living. If we're eating dead food, all we're doing is killing ourselves. But I'm not going to go into a science project today. What I am going to do is talk about a strategy to maybe protect the direction of his country. I'm going to go under the premise that Donald Trump has already been assassinated. The left believes that if they kill Donald Trump, they will kill the MAGA movement. They will kill America first. I don't believe that, and I don't think many of you do either. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to a podcast called Patriots Must Rise. So we need to define what America first and what the MAGA movement actually is. Make America Great Again was a catchy slogan, but it became more than that. Donald Trump opened up a lot of our eyes as to the corruption of America and what has to be done in order to actually keep America free. I think we all know what has to be done. We're not going to be able to do it through elections. Okay? And I think they actually want a ground war. Because in their misguided mind, they actually think that they have the military. But through the eyes of a soldier, I'm going to tell you one thing that should reassure you. Every soldier takes an oath to obey a lawful order. Okay? No soldier would actually deem firing on innocent Americans as a lawful order. So we have the military, and they don't realize it. as I've said before, I know most of the pilots that fly the nuclear capable aircrafts. And they flat out told me in many different ways, but it all basically sums up to, if we are given an order to drop a nuke on America, the only nuke that will be dropped will be on Washington, D.C. That encourages me. And people don't seem to understand what that actually means. So let me explain it to you in such a way, because this is a beautiful thing. It means the spirit of rebellion that founded this country still exists. And that is MAGA. That is Make America Great Again. We don't have the option to play with molesting our kids and arguing about gender being just a term versus a scientific reality. We don't have an option to argue about whether or not 2 oranges and 2 apples equal 6 bananas. If anybody doesn't get that reference, that was Common Core math during Obama's reign. Absolutely no logic to it. They were intentionally dumbing down our kids. And unfortunately, the Zoomers that are coming up behind us fell into that generation. We should actually be able to go into a classroom and see the highest marks on math and language skills than ever before. Because the future of our country actually depends on whether or not that child sitting in the back room or sitting in the back of a room can actually land a space shuttle, could actually build a bridge. The reason that America has to be made great again is because we're falling behind. We're falling behind in education. We're falling behind in knowledge of history. We're falling behind in language skills. Most American students only speak English. There are those that speak Spanish, but to be honest, those are probably illegal. They're probably undocumented and allowed to stay in this country through corrupt means. While Japan, Ukraine, Russia, Germany, English is a mandatory language to learn in order to graduate. They're learning multiple languages at the same time. And because of that, they start realizing that mathematics is nothing more than another language. So they excel at it. Instead, we start teaching our kids that a boy isn't a boy and a boy could be a girl and a boy could have a baby. What are we doing to our kids? What are we doing to the future of our country? This is the blatant corruption that can never be allowed to have a voice in our country again. I am very, very comfortable with the idea of taking these blue hairs, putting them in carts, and piling them onto a bonfire after we shoot them. Because they deserve it. They really do. These are the ones that have been preaching about murdering their own children for generations. And they call it women's health, women's reproductive health. Excuse me? Murder is reproductive health? Yeah, no. Murder is murder. I've got absolutely no problem with the idea of retroactive abortion if it means that we can use that term to justify the murder of Democrats. I've got to tell you, but that's just me. So many would actually disagree with me, but I think that's actually changing. I guess this is kind of a warning to the powers that be, because there's over 2/3 of the country that have been itching to start shooting Democrats. So the martyrdom of Donald Trump would just fuel the flames. You have been screwing us for the past 50 years. And because of that, we've had plenty of time to plan and execute our plans to destroy you. And none of them are peaceful. I am more than happy to say it might be a good idea to actually start dipping our silencers in napalm. It really might be a good idea. I'm just saying. Sharpen your knives. Oil up the guns. Because if they assassinate Donald Trump in order to keep power, a power that they never deserved, it is and has been said by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison that in a long train of despotism, there comes a time where the population needs to rise up and reclaim what is theirs. I think it's very important that people realize that the first document ever written in America says in the second paragraph of the preamble that it is not only our right but our obligation to overthrow the government if it has become so corrupted that their agenda has become destructive to the ends and reasoning behind their existence. I am Anatoly Anatolisova, and this is Patriots Must Rise. Please like, subscribe, and there is a donation link in the description. This podcast is completely crowdfunded because obviously my content is not going to be supported by any sponsor. If you support my content, you're supporting my family, and it's muchly appreciated. So until next time, live free, die well, and love your neighbor as Christ has loved you. Unless your neighbor is a Democrat, then blow his car up.